King Nebuchadnezzar was king of the city of Babylon. He seized Jerusalem and took many Hebrews prisoner. Among them were 4 young men whom the king wished to teach the ways of Babylon. The youths learned diligently all that they were taught. Nebuchadnezzar was very pleased, and he allowed them to live in his palace. Yet they would not worship the gods of Babylon. They prayed only to the God of the Hebrews. One of the young men, Daniel, knew the meaning of dreams, and the king learned of this. One day he came to Daniel and spoke of a dream that had occurred to him the night before. Nebuchadnezzar had dreamed of a statue with a golden head, a silver body, and feet that were made of clay. The statue fell when struck by a stone, and a great mountain rose in its place. Daniel told the king that the statue was Babylon, which would fall. The mountain was the kingdom of God, which would last forever. Nebuchadnezzar ordered a golden statue to be made in his own image, which everyone was to worship. When his subjects heard trumpets blaring, they were to fall on their knees. Everyone cast themselves down on the ground, but Daniel and his friends would not worship the false idol. The king was furious. Nebuchadnezzar decided that they should be burned alive, all but Daniel. The flames grew higher as the furnace grew hotter, and then Daniel's friends were cast into the flames. Suddenly the king asked his guards how many Hebrews had been thrown into the fire. 3, they replied. But I see 4 men, the king cried. For an angel had come to protect the 3 men. Nebuchadnezzar ordered that they be set free and honored them greatly. One night, King Nebuchadnezzar had another strange dream. He dreamed of a tree that grew until it covered the world, providing food and shelter for all people. But an angel told him to cut down the tree. In the morning, the king went to Daniel to tell him of the dream. What does it mean? He asked. You are the tree protecting your people. But unless you believe in God, you will lose your kingdom and go mad. The king ignored Daniel's prophecy, and thus he went mad. He was thrown out of Babylon by his own people. God is more powerful than any king, he realized. At once, the madness left him, and he was able to go back to Babylon. In time, Nebuchadnezzar grew old and died. His son, Belshazzar, became king, and he ordered a feast to be held. The guests ate from the dishes and drank from the goblets that his father had stolen from the temple of Jerusalem. Suddenly, a ghostly hand appeared out of the air and wrote a message on the wall. Belshazzar was greatly afraid. He asked Daniel what the message meant. Daniel told him that he had offended the Lord, and that his kingdom would fall to his enemies. That night, the king was murdered in his sleep. Darius was declared king. He made Daniel the ruler over all his governors. These officials were jealous of him, so they presented Darius with a new law, which he signed, forbidding all worship for 30 days on pain of death. Daniel could not obey this law because of his faith in God. So he was brought before Darius by his enemies. The king was forced to order his death. The prisoner was cast into the lion pit. But that night, King Darius prayed for his life. In the morning, Daniel was alive and well, unharmed by the lions. He told Darius that an angel had saved him. For their wickedness, the false governors were thrust into the pit, and they were torn to pieces by the lions. Then Darius decreed that all his people were to worship the one God.